So it's safe to say at this point you've basically never seen really anything.
Yes, I cannot recall seeing anything.
How do you imagine the world around you?
I mean, though there are some challenges attached,
Oh, yes.
because so many people will say in local languages that they tell, like this man can see and he's just pretending. They fail to understand that nobody can pretend to be blind.
In Nigeria or whatsoever, there's a particular part in Nigeria you hear they are reared like animals. When they are reared to a certain state, they are sold, or either parts of the body will be cut in different pieces or whatsoever, and being sold to others, and people buy it gladly because people believe so much in that spirituality of persons with albinism that if you use certain parts of them or whatsoever, you become so wealthy or lucky, or you win, or whatsoever you're doing, you're going to triumph in that aspect of life. Mm-hmm. Others also believe that it cures HIV/AIDS.
I can't see. Can you turn the volume up?
Can you say it again?
Volume up. Volume up.
Volume down.
Welcome to another episode of the Daily Dose and the Free Thinker segment. Today we have individuals that one of whom I've been following on social media, and I'm sure a lot of people have questions, but the questions would be asked later on in the show, because it is a very interesting one, and how he is able to use social media with his conditions. But I'll just give them the opportunity to introduce themselves and tell us, what they do, some of the things that they're involved in. I'll start on my right with Bubacarr.
Thank you so much, Gando. This is Bubacarr Sanne, a visual impaired. I am a teacher, a student, and then as well an advocate on the rights of persons with disability, peace, and then strong democratic institutions. Thank you.
And
Hello everyone, I go by the names Adama Sarr. I am a degree holder in development studies, currently interning at the Gambia Federation of the Disabled as a communications officer, and as well serve as a member of the National Disability Advisory Council, which is set by an Act of Parliament, which is the Persons with Disabilities Act 2021. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Cherno Ceesay, Honorable Cherno Ceesay. I am the nominated representative for young people with disabilities at the National Youth Parliament, the Gambia. And professionally, I work as a teacher. Socially, I do advocacy. Basically, I advocate against issues that are affecting the rights and fundamental freedom of young people and children with disabilities in the Gambia. I also work with an organization called Start Now as an advocacy officer. So Start Now is an organization that empower blind and visually impaired high school graduates in preparation for higher education and employment. Thank you.
okay, that's amazing. So it seems like all of you guys are involved in, serving, not just with your conditions, but you're giving back in the different capacities that you're able to give back. So my first question would be, what does this mean to you being on a platform like this, regardless of your disabilities? Mr. Bubacarr.
Thank you so much, Gando. Being on platforms like this, it helps a lot in many ways. First, it helps to clarify a whole lot of misconceptions with regards to persons with disabilities. We live in a society whereby people's understanding towards persons with disability and then disability in general is kind of limited. Mm-hmm. So having the opportunities like this, having the platform like this, help us to set light on some of those challenges or some of those misconceptions or misunderstandings that people have towards persons with disabilities. Mm-hmm. But then as well, it helps us to educate the society as well, because as I said, the education towards persons with disability, towards disability in this country is very, very limited. You don't have it in schools, you don't have it in tertiary institutions. So having platforms like this help us to talk to the society, to tell them generally what we are up to, what we are able to do, and from there they will be able to understand, to have a general understanding of how disability works and then how persons with disability lives in general. Thank you.
So for you specifically, what is your disability? Like, how would you categorize it? Because when we say disability, it's like a category.
Exactly.
But there's a lot of things that are involved.
Yes.
But for you specifically, like, what is your disability?
I am a visual impaired. Yes.
Is it completely or partly?
Yeah, totally blind.
Totally blind.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is this something that you developed at some point in your life, or you were born with it?
No, I developed it at some point of my life, somewhere around age 2, 3.
Do you remember any visions, like any have you ever seen, do you remember anything you've seen at that age, or you don't?
It would be very quite early of my age. I'm not sure of remembering anything that I have seen. Yes.
So it's safe to say at this point you've basically never seen really anything.
Yes, I cannot recall seeing anything.
How do you imagine the world around you?
Yes, through visions you can't tell. However, imagining the world can take a lot of shapes. One could be through sounds, through your feelings towards a lot of things that are around you. And through that, you will be able to imagine how the world is, and then as well through literature as well. Aside from that, through visions, there is no way that you could tell. Yes.
Because for the reason why I'm asking this again, it's a very neutral platform.
Exactly.
We don't discriminate. We do not judge. It's at the end of the day, if we want to understand each other, we have to communicate.
Very well.
We have to really understand what it means to be visually impaired. Because I think a lot of people with sight just take it for granted.
Exactly.
And they don't understand what it means to not have it. So my other question would be, for example, like me, if I want to imagine, if I want to daydream, for example, I already have enough sites that I've seen to kind of construct my imaginations. So I can imagine what a river might look like, what trees might look like. I can imagine what birds look like. So if I'm imagining something like, say, paradise, for example, these are the different images that I construct in my head to imagine what paradise may seem like. So for you, that might not be the case, because you might have an idea on what a bird is, but you don't know what it looks like. So if you're imagining a bird, how do you see it in your head?
So persons with disability have a very, very, very strong sense of feeling. And despite the eyes not seeing, the sense of feeling is very, very high, and therefore anytime that we have a touch of something, or anytime that we have a sound of something, it remains in the mind, and then you can easily do an imagination through either feelings or hearing. So these are very, very strong. These are very strong organs, or I can say these are strong human senses that we use a lot in terms of imagination.
Okay, so it's mostly feeling.
Yes, feeling and touching. Feeling and hearing. Yes.
Feeling and hearing.
Yes.
So that is entirely different from someone that's who sees.
Exactly.
Your imaginations are mostly through images.
Yes.
Which is another. I guess it's a different version of, seeing things. It's powerful in its own credit.
Very well.
The reason why I'm asking this, I saw a story on this person that was born. She was deaf, she was blind, and she could not talk, basically.
Helen Keller.
I don't know if you
Helen Keller, yeah.
Yeah. And she's a Muslim, right? Is that a person?
No, the one I know, it's an American. She's the first American college graduate. She's deaf, blind, and hard of hearing.
Actually, it's that one. Yeah, she's the one.
Yes.
She's not Muslim. You're right.
Yeah.
She's the one. And it was very difficult for her to connect to other people because of her conditions. And somehow, someone was able to bring her back to the world. Like, teaching her stuff through, you know, the sense of touching.
Exactly.
And it
Yes.
became so powerful. That's the only channel she had to learn everything that she knew, which is insane. It just shows you, when it comes to disability, it doesn't really limit you, because that would be subjective.
Exactly.
It activates other parts of your body that is equally powerful, if not more powerful than, say, someone like me. Like you said, your sense of, you know, feeling is way stronger than mine in a lot of regards, because you've kind of tuned and enhanced that part of you to a point where when you touch something, the way you would perceive it or the way you feel about it, it's going to be completely different from someone like me.
Exactly.
Which is to say, because you're disabled, it shouldn't limit anybody.
Sure.
It should not limit, and it shouldn't limit. How can I put it? It should not limit the options that you have. It should also not limit your what is the word? I'm trying to look for the right word to use.
Maybe your participation.
Your participation as well. But this is more for society, where how to perceive people that are disabled, not to see them as lack of, but different.
Exactly.
Different in their own credit, in their own regard. That even though they're limited in something that you have, it doesn't necessarily mean they're entirely limited in what it is that they can do.
The limitation even is created by society. So
It's conditional.
Exactly.
It's been conditioned to a point where you actually start internalizing and believing that, oh, because I'm lacking this, I can't achieve enough. And there have been success stories that we've seen. You know, someone like this Ellen that you talked about, someone who's blind and they're deaf, and they're able to have a university degree. That's insane, right? So I mean, kudos to you guys. I don't do the pity, you know, like saying, you know, you're visually impaired, so I'm going to pity you, because I think that's just adding to the problem.
Exactly.
I shouldn't. I should treat you like an equal.
Exactly.
That's why sometimes I'll crack certain jokes. Don't take it too deep. It's because I see you as an equal. I don't see you as someone less of me. I see you as someone equal to me, regardless of your conditions.
Right.
So I'll just move to the sister. So how do you perceive the society we live in the response to your needs?
Kind of, I would say, society is not friendly because as you've been talking about limitations. It's that society that creates that limitations because we born, or some of us get it along the way with the impairment we have. But then upon interaction with the various barriers society places in front of us, it's what creates that disability we have. Because if these are barriers that society created were not there, we would participate freely without depending on anyone or without expecting aid or people to pity or look down on us. Currently, for instance, I will use Gambia as an example. Certain buildings or structures that society creates, it's not accessible, as we normally say, to certain categories of persons with disabilities. You see us building story buildings here and there. We don't put certain amenities or certain services that can be used by the person with a wheelchair or a person with a clutch or the person who is blind or visually impaired. So obviously that person will find it difficult to access that place. So it's you, that society, you, that individual, that has created that problem or that barrier for that person to use that freely without depending on anyone. So I can say society is not friendly to us persons with disabilities. Society is at times harsh because of the misconceptions they have about disability. A lot of things are being said, or we are looked down upon, or we are seen as objects of charity, because we normally see what's happening in the Gambia. A lot of times persons with disabilities you come across, particularly children, are seen on the streets begging because people conceptualize it that if you have a disability you can't do much. All you have to do is being placed on the street to beg. People should give you, because at times you even don't sit there, you'll be moving around your business, somebody will just come stop you and say, take this and pray for me, because already they've conceptualized a person with a disability to be an object of charity.
That's a problem.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a problem. That narrative have to change.
Definitely.
It has to change because it's putting a limitation that do not exist.
Yeah.
And we've come to a point where it's acceptable. And for you, what's your condition?
I'm a person with albinism, as I said earlier, but with visual impairment, because people with albinism generally are born with visual impairment. Though the levels differ, the levels of impairment visually differ, but then I have a very short-sighted vision. I have myopia or astigmatism, as scientifically said, but the albinism is a genetic condition. I'm born with it. It's a skin disorder, I can say.
So okay, it's the, what is it? It's like you
Lack melanin.
you lack melanin.
That is the pigment that gives people the black color they have.
So what are some of the challenges you face with your condition, like health wise, or just being able to navigate the environment that you're in?
I am coping, or I am managing, but then it's difficult as a person with albinism, particularly with the weather condition or the climate we find in ourselves. Because as I said, we lack the pigment, that is the melanin, that gives one the black skin or color you have. So with that, I'm so prone to the sunlight, because if I'm exposed to sunlight, it gives me black spots. That is the freckles on my body. And we know how the sunlight is here, and accessing also certain materials or devices that can help me to be protected from the sun is difficult in this country. As of now, we use sunscreens to protect us from the ultraviolet rays of the sun. But then in this country, that is difficult to access, and it's very expensive. If you don't have a strong financial muscle, you can't access it, because it's not available in hospitals to be given freely. If you access it, it's either you got it from a philanthropist, or you walk down certain pharmacies, and which is very few, to access it. So without it, if exposed, your skin can be damaged, and too much exposure, where you have these spots, can lead to skin cancer. Because if you expose too much, and then you tag along with these certain spots we call freckles, at the end of the day, a lot of our people get in contact with a disease called skin cancer, which is very difficult to cure. And then also with the visual impairment, it's difficult, kind of, because to get the glasses that you can use that suits your taste normally is kind of difficult, because currently you see me with glasses. You think I can see anywhere or any far distance, but no, it just makes images clear, but certain writings I can still see. So it's still difficult to access those kind of things here. So as a person with albinism, I'm just coping or managing, and I know my colleagues down there are doing the same, but then it's difficult here. Very.
As of now, is there any cure for it?
For what?
Albinism.
No. As I said, it's a genetic condition.
So there's no.
Yeah, it's in the genes. You cannot cure it.
Is it also common that people with albinism have vision impairment?
Yeah. As I said earlier, it's common. We're born with the vision impairment.
Okay, as
though
well.
the levels differ.
Okay.
Because as for me, I have two other siblings who have albinism, but our levels of vision differ. My younger sister, the one after me, her vision is quite better than me, because hers is using glasses of -4, -5. But I am using up to -12, -16. So that shows you our level of visions differ.
Okay, I see that. I mean, when it comes to albinism, it's shameful on how society have treated people with albinism in history. And but it's good news, at least we're in a different environment now. I mean, it depends on where you are. It's still very scary.
Yeah, definitely.
To be someone like that. Like, what are some of the things you've heard or you've seen about the attitude towards albinism?
In this country, I will start with. There are negative attitudes, yes, but at times you come across some with good perceptions. But the negative covers a lot, because I can use some examples. At times, as a person with albinism, you move around. The stories you hear, or the certain things you hear or you face, is kind of sinful, as you said. Moving on the streets, you see children spitting in their clothes, saying because they don't want their parents to give birth to children like you. But then, as what I normally say is, it's something being instilled in them. Children observe, and they see it from adults. That's why they do it. They don't just get up and do it. They're being told that yes, a person with albinism, if you don't want your parents to get a child like that, do this and this and that. You enter vehicles at times, people move away from you. Some people immediately they come close, they see you there, they prefer not to board that vehicle. They prefer to board another one. If where you're sitting is the only spot available, that tells you a lot. And at times, though this is not frequent here, but it's happening. Some people just get married or try to develop a lust, because I will not call that love, towards persons with albinism, because they have the belief that if they get married to persons with albinism, normally they're riches or they'll be wealthy. Because in the local language, they will say, kid of the ibi worsak. Before I got married to my husband, there was this fuller woman we always come across in Westfield. She would be like, whenever we go there to buy bananas, she'd be like, oh, you will become one day somebody very lucky, very wealthy or whatsoever, because because that's the conception we've built as a society. We believe that when you marry them or when you have contact with them, oh, mashallah. And stories we've been hearing in other parts of the world, alhamdulillah, it's not in this country so far, because we don't know what's coming. But then it's very sad. People take them for witch hunting or whatsoever. Cut parts of their bodies because they believe if they use it, it's going to change their lives here and there. You know, there was a point in time, even when election was approaching in this country, I get scared, because I'll be like, I hope it will not
get to a point
where what I have been seeing or reading in magazines will not happen in my country. Because in other parts of the world, Senegal, which is a proxy, happened there. Persons with albinism are not even safe in Senegal, because when elections is coming, you hear stories or you read certain magazines where you see persons with albinism are being hunted. In Nigeria or whatsoever, there's a particular part in Nigeria, you hear they are reared like animals. When they are reared to a certain state, they are sold. Or either parts of the body will be cut in different pieces or whatsoever and being sold to others. And people buy it gladly, because people believe so much in that spirituality of persons with albinism that if you use certain parts of them or whatsoever, you become so wealthy or lucky, or you win or whatsoever you're doing, you're going to triumph in that aspect of life. Others also believe that it cures HIV/AIDS. If you come into contact with a woman with albinism, your HIV/AIDS that you have will be cured. So all these are kind of conceptions or attitudes people have towards albinism, because it's already something they've conceptualized, that albinism means something different or whatsoever. So it's kind of difficult to navigate society in general, not only Gambia, but society globally. It's difficult to navigate as a person with albinism. You always move with fear.
You know, these are traditions and practices that are deeply rooted in most cultures and societies. And I think what we are seeing is just remnants of it. Or someone believes that sitting next to someone with albinism has any kind of an effect on it's just ridiculous. You know, it's like it's a very silly thing to believe in.
Yeah, definitely, because something that has to do with your genes, I don't think it's just something you can transfer by sitting. Because having parents who don't even have albinism is an example. None of my parents has albinism. I have other siblings that don't have albinism, and within my family, I can say I and my two siblings, I mean the extended family, are the only ones with albinism. So that tells a lot.
It's just ignorance. That's just what it is. And sometimes I believe it's selective ignorance, where people choose to believe what they believe in. I mean, if you're a Muslim, which Gambia is a majority Muslim country, and you still have these concepts in your head that someone with this condition or that condition has an effect in, you know, your work or your health, it's very silly.
But it's sad to say also, some of our Muslim leaders are, the ignorance starts with them. Sorry to say this language. As an office, JFD, we once went for a community outreach. In Janjanbureh, we came across an imam. After all the talking and whatsoever, so, you know, questions and answer sessions, the imam raised the hand, and what the imam said was like, the product of albinism, or if you have a child with albinism, do you know what is the cause? We asked. He said, it's when you come into contact with your wife when she is menstruating. then obviously you will give birth to a child with albinism.
That's silly.
Yeah.
No one gets pregnant when they're on their menstruation period.
Exactly.
It's
just
at the end of the day, what I've realized when it comes to these imams is, you can have the imam title. It doesn't necessarily make you an imam, right? At the end of the day, behind your closed doors, you're still practicing things that Islam do not agree with. So you can call yourself an imam, you can call yourself a hafiz, you can call yourself a Muslim, you can call yourself whatever it is. But at the end of the day, I usually tend to look at the individual itself, not the title that comes with the individual.
right.
Because it's absolutely a shame for someone with that title to be spewing statements like that. It's very harmful, and we've seen that recently as well when it came to this FGM practice. It's quite silly, and it's just ignorance in my view. But I just want to take you back to the when you said the marrying and someone with albinism, that would be wursak. I just want to play devil advocate here for a little bit, right? So there's an idea, I guess, in Islam where making certain decisions or getting married to certain people, depending on the conditions that they're in, it does take a lot of sacrifice because there's a lot of societal pressures. So I think this is coming from an Islamic point of view. It's almost like saying when you care for and what do you call it, al-yatima, someone whose parents have passed away, it will be wursak. And I think the idea there is there's some truth to it. It's because you're caring for someone who is socially disadvantaged, and it takes a lot of courage to do that. But if the idea of marrying an albino person has something to do with rituals, when you marry, I don't believe in the ubi wursak part. I just believe you get a reward and you get it from your creator. Whether it's through material gains or whether it's through emotional gains or whether it's through afterlife gains, there's just something that comes with making a decision like that. Because irregardless of social pressures and how people view you being with someone with conditions like that, you still, like, this is my decision, I'm going to make it, I'm doing it for the sake of God. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to marriage, you're doing it for the sake of God. So I would lean a little bit towards that. But I would understand if it's coming down to spiritual sacrifices or spiritual, beliefs that if you do this, then that's utter nonsense.
Yeah.
So this is just me playing devil advocate a little bit.
I know.
And I'm saying this to say is, if you see someone that you want or someone that you like, irregardless of the conditions that they have, and you're doing it for the sake of God, do it, irregardless of what society thinks of you. But if you're doing it because you think, Shaitan is going to give you some wealth, bro, you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's sad anyway.
It is. It's quite sad.
Because it has gone to an extent. Now others also don't even consider the emotional part or the love part. You
Yeah.
just do it for the sake of, yes, I'm going to get that wealth, so let me just go ahead.
Yeah.
You go into it, you don't see that wealth, then you get out of it.
People,
Yeah.
Shaitan plays games with us all the time, and for some reason we keep falling for it all the time.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no such thing as easy way to wealth. There's no shortcut to it. It's either you sell your soul or you do it the right way. Selling your soul comes with a lot of consequences, and it doesn't guarantee that you're going to be wealthy anyway. But doing it the right way, if you're not wealthy, it gives you fulfillment. And I think that's what everyone that's looking for money is looking for. If you have all the wealth in the world and you don't have any kind of fulfillment, you're not happy, it's pointless. You go to bed and you can't sleep. So on that end, people that have those kind of beliefs, they're just silly.
Right.
Let me move to the gentleman on my right. So you are partly blind or entirely blind?
No, I'm partially sighted. So I lost my left eye completely, but I can see a little with my right eye, but not of the expectation anyways. Yes, so because of that, so many people question my visual impairment because I'm very independent. There are most of things I do all by myself. So yes, but I consider myself visually impaired because I cannot read from books, like normal printed books. All what I do when I was going to school, I rely on the Braille machine, and now with the help of technology makes, everything very, very easy with us. Yes, please.
It's you're just like my grandma, because her left eye is completely gone. Either her left or her right. I think it's her left, and the right eye is also on the way of going. So it's very difficult for her for perceived depth. Like when she's walking, she can't differentiate things that are deep or high, or So it's quite. But she's very independent as well. She lives alone. She does her own laundry. She does her own cooking, even with those conditions. So she has learned to adapt around her disabilities, and she's able to do. She's quite, just like you said, she's quite independent in her day-to-day activities.
Yeah, I mean, though there are some challenges attached,
Oh, yes.
because so many people will say in local languages that like this man can see and he's just pretending. They fail to understand that nobody can pretend to be blind. At some point, human beings a little bit selfish. At some point, everybody wanted to see, because if you can see all the time, if you can see obviously the beauty of the world, at some point will distract you. You understand? So, like when Bubacarr said, visually impaired people rely on touching things and feel them around them. Because if you're visually impaired, the beauty of the world do not distract, because you cannot see. So that is why we give a classical example when it comes to employment per se. If you employ someone with visual impairment and employ someone that can see at workplace, if you evaluate their attacks, the level of their performances in terms of dealing with attacks at workplace, mostly the visual impaired person will perform better. Because
more diligent
yes,
with the work.
because there's not much around that will distract this person. Perhaps maybe you can see, you want to use Facebook, or you want to watch every picture on Instagram or Twitter, at work. At some point, you deviate the responsibility.
I like how you're marketing now.
Exactly. You deviate from the work.
Take note.
Yes, exactly. But for the person with disability, or visual impairment per se, you don't need to, in fact, Instagram is not very, visually impaired friendly, because it's more of pictures and all of that. And most of those audios they posted are not, we don't have audio, prescribers, you understand? So mostly, so you do great at work than someone that can see. But with partially sightedness, I bet it's a big challenge. Even at my family level, sometimes my mom will say, why don't you do this? I think you can do it. I'll be like, Mom, to be honest, I know myself better. As I'm growing up, my vision is deteriorating, right? So if I don't put that to you, you won't be able to understand. Because I'm very confidential, and at some point I believe in myself. So they take that for granted, and a lot of people think I can see perfectly. And at times I love supporting my peers with the little side I have. Bubacarr can attest to that. At school, or in terms of youth engagement programs, I'm always with him. Some people think I can see perfectly, but for us, we understand ourselves better. And so it is easier for me to support Bubacarr than somebody else who don't understand, or the person is not disability friendly. So we render such services to one another. So
there's a sense of empathy.
Yes, exactly. At point, I don't. Okay, I think it's my responsibility, because I believe, if you advocate for support from other people, why can't we support each other ourselves? Let's start with ourselves. So there we don't serve as a burden to any other person, because they've seen visually impaired people supporting each other. A wheelchair user been, supporting visually impaired person, going together. So you as a program organizer, you have no work to do at that point. You understand? So yes. So we believe self-pity is our worst enemy, and if we yield to it, we'll never progress. That's what we believe, basically. Yeah.
And it just doesn't stop to people with disabilities. Self-pity generally, even if you're perfectly fine, it is your worst enemy. It puts you in places where you cannot, it's very hard for you to get out of, and people cannot get you out of that place except yourself. My grandmother would usually, she would say, Barrow has mentioned the dogs, the cats, the goats, the sheep, everybody except the disabled community.
Exactly. Yes.
Is there any support from the government towards disabled people in your experience?
All right. So okay, I don't think government is doing much. I will not say they are not doing nothing at all. For the fact that now we have the Disability Act, which is a commitment from the side of the government at some point. But if you observe the political representation in the Gambia, you can understand that we are underrepresented. And you could imagine if you neglect us in terms of decision making, in terms of policy development, in terms of strategic development for national development, then I don't think you are willing to support us at some point. Because exactly. So one of the most important arm of the government, according to me, which is the legislature, right? And at the moment, there is no representation for persons with disabilities. Yes, as I speak. I don't know for a reason. In 2016, when Barrow came into power, and woman was nominated by Barrow's government to represent us at the parliament. But I don't know, at some point, maybe there is some political, ideological fragmentation at some point. Because in as much as you nominated somebody, you need to understand that this person has a right, and this person is representing a whole set of group. And it is the responsibility of the person to push the agenda of people that the person is representing, not the agenda of the government that has the opportunity to nominate the person. So I don't know, at some point this person was never nominated back, was never given a second chance, and they never nominate anyone else to represent us at the parliament. So for me, I don't think government is doing much, to be honest, because if we are not politically represented, remember the decision we take at political level of leadership, that will determine how our lives will be in future, because we expect those politicians to create us with health facilities, to build educational centers, to make sure societies are accessible and flexible, to make sure we have a very good mobility aids and mobility system in place. But if at the political leadership stage there is no one to send reminder to the government of their responsibility in supporting and empowering and pushing and promoting the rights of persons with disabilities in the Gambia, I see no sense of support from the government, to be honest. Yes.
It's quite a shame for people in positions of power to address everyone in the nation, but for some reason disabled people are just kind of put in a corner and forgotten about. And it's quite shameful, because if you look at developing countries, they have access to disabled people. You have disabled parking spaces, you have disabled walk path, you have disabled bicycles, you have disabled a lot of things that are catered to them. And I think for a country to develop, there needs to be equal representation across the board in decision making and also in implementation. And I think these are things that people that are in positions of power should take note on, that there is a whole community that need as much help as possible. Because at the end of the day, as much as it should not stop you from achieving what it is that you want to achieve, but the society has to be friendly enough as well.
Right.
It's not just on an individual level. It's almost like if you want to climb Mount Everest. That's an ambition that you have, but you need the right gear to climb it. You can't just be like, you know what, I have a vision, I'm going to climb this mountain. You'll die.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that are losing their lives. That's not because of the decisions they are making, but because of society's decision and implementation when it comes to our society at large. That's something that needs to be addressed. So with your disability, do you have any challenges in running your day-to-day activities?
Okay. Yes. I mean, every human has challenge in running a day-to-day activity. I mean, for one of the most imperative, I'll call it imperative because I believe it's one of the most factor. I mean, challenge that is really affecting most. That is attitudinal barriers. Yes, towards disability and disability inclusion in the Gambia.
Yeah.
Because you can understand that in terms of getting job accessibility, in the Gambia is a big challenge. I don't want to mention the name of the institution, but this institution announced that there is a vacancy for internship. You understand? Because I know, even though I don't get a university degree, but I've been into social work, even though I'm not certified to be recognized legally as a social worker, but I have a lot of experiences because you can attach conditions to how people with disabilities, especially visual impairment, gain even formal education in the Gambia. It's very challenging, right?
I don't want to cut you off.
Yes.
But you see, with institutions like this that say that basically refuse to take you
Yes.
in,
Mhm.
if we don't call them out,
Yes.
these problems will not be fixed.
Right.
I mean, I understand they need to be, they have in the sutura culture, and whatever happens, just, let it go and be like that. But at the end of the day, if these things are not addressed and mentioned out in the public,
Right.
they will never be changed. And
Yeah.
sometimes it would be for their own good that they've been
Right.
called out, because then they would have no choice but to change their policies,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
You in places like, the Western world, or places where there's democracy,
Right.
things like this
Right.
would be called out.
No, that's right. Yeah. So I just want to I just want to save that for a reason. But like you're right. I should mention it. Yeah, I should mention it. But because they according to them, they're also coming up as a newly established institution.
The more reason to be different.
So
and
yes,
be
yes.
inclusive.
But yeah. So but what I'm trying to say is when they call for that, I send in my application, right? So they call for an interview. You understand? So I was there with a lot of them, a lot of young people that also applied, right?
Mhm.
So, but because one thing I am very much concerned about that I know hide, it's my disability. So the first question is, can you briefly describe yourself? And I told him I am, I'm a patriotic, visually impaired citizen of the Gambia. So that's where he stopped me. And you mean you're visually impaired? Yes. Do you think you can be able to do this job? I said yes. But what he said is they do not have plans to employ persons with disabilities yet. So I was coming to that because in as much as we have our Disability Act, and as much as the Constitution empowered that persons with disabilities have the right to job and choices of job, right? It is also important in institutions we have what you call the internal policies of every institution should be tallied with the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and also the Disability Act. Otherwise, in fact, Disability Act may still give it a chance to work or privilege or right to work as an individual. But in the internal policy of their institution, there is nothing like that. I hope you understand. It should be institutionally domesticated. I hope you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
The internal policy should be very much flexible in a point that persons with disabilities should be employed. You understand? So he said they don't have avenues for me at the time. You understand? So that's one of the challenges I wanted to confirm. I was not going to say, okay, this person, they are saying they're not going to employ me because of my visual impairment, but they said they don't have an avenue for that, according to the interviewer. You understand? So that was the point. But I believe it's important for institutions like that not to limit themselves to only people that can able to see, or people without disability, they call them. If we are trying to set up our institutions, let's make it very flexible for everybody. Let's make sure our policies set aside for everybody. So if people like me who may have the chance to job with your organization someday may be able to be at a better stand to grab that job. We want to be independent. Like Adama said, not only children, but there are a lot of families with disabilities that are struggling to even put food on the table for their children daily. We have parents with disabilities. You understand?
Yeah, I've met a few.
You understand?
Actually.
So these people need to be employed. Either you're gonna be self-employed or employed by an institution. But you need all that. In fact, if you don't give me the job, how will you know that? Exactly.
And that's exactly the point that I'm
Yeah,
trying to make.
yeah, exactly. So all these things comes to my mind, yeah. But I know it needs drastical advocacy, like we're doing, like what you do right now, bringing us to such a platform to discuss about some of these issues. This might send an alert to a whole lot of institutions. Most importantly, institutions that claim themselves to be, young people institutions or young people organizations that believe in development, peace, education, and health. So they should also believe in the principle of inclusion. We are not asking for inclusion just for the name. We need productive inclusion, right? We don't ask you to bring any other person with disability just because of their disability. You place them at work. No, we have the qualification, right? We always advocate for this as well. You as person with disability also you need to build your capacity. You need to be skillful because you don't expect this person to employ you and you cannot do the work. It's a waste for an organization. It's not going to bring profit to them. They also want sustainability. You understand? So, but But this is one of the major challenge that, other young people with visual or disabilities like me are, encountering. You can have the university degree, what jobs are with? Sometimes I feel like, should I even go to school? Should I even invest my little wealth going to school? Because at the end of the day, I don't know who is going to employ me. I'm studying international relations at the moment. I could recall we had, how do you call it, a dialogue with the director of protocol at the president's office someday, right, at MDI. And this was my question to him, sir, what is the relationship between disability and diplomacy?
Yeah.
And he said that is the first time he's heard about such. Could you imagine? So that means that department is not set to accommodate persons with disabilities, even though we have all the qualifications to serve as protocol officers, to be part of the presidential delegate someday, So it's a major challenge. Education is a challenge, that's one thing. But if you give us the chance to go to school, how about jobs? Create job opportunities first, because we want to be independent.
Yeah.
We don't just want to have the chronic education or vocational technical educations, and sit at home. Still, nothing will change in our lives.
Understandable. Yeah.
I hope you understand what I mean, right?
Yeah,
So that is why I was not trying to mention names of institutions, but I know what I've encountered. There are a lot of people with disabilities that will share their stories, and it will be equivalent, almost similar. You understand? Because of one societal, misunderstandings or how people perceive or consider disability. But it's not a limitation. It's just a condition of being unable to do things normally. But it doesn't mean that you cannot do nothing at all. If I give you a classical example, if the roof of a house is very high at some point, right, and your bulb is not working for you at all, and it's at night because you can see, but maybe you are very short, but you cannot get to the point to fix the bulb. What do? You need support, right? You either stand on something, or somebody lift it up, so you can change, and put the better bulb, so you can be able to see. So at some point you are limited. You have maybe a health condition, even though people think you have no disability. You go to the hospital and they be like, okay, what do you do here? Or you should not eat rice at night. It's a limitation. Everybody has disability. So because ours is external, that somebody can see, and they only limited disability to us, but everybody it's living with a disability at some point. And this is what I always said as an advocate. Do not advocate for the rights of persons with disabilities only if you are a victim. Try to make sure you're there for us. And the foundation that you may lay to them may be your own benefit someday. I will give you Rwanda, after the genocide, right? Most of the productive young people at the time were able, but from the genocide, you understand that a lot of them became, have disabilities now. But the government has no choice, because if the productive young people are, living with disability, what do? You just employ them. You have no choice. And so that makes Rwanda and Uganda as a point. As according to statistics, Uganda now employed not less than 44,000 persons with disabilities in various sectors of government because of, social conflict, you understand. So a lot of people, have disability. So maybe Gambia is waiting for that. So we can also have, an aggression or a war. So the government and people of the Gambia will respect people with disability, so they can put all these measures in place. Rwanda and Uganda and some part of Ghana are very accessible. What are we waiting for?
Even Kenya is
Kenya,
a typical
yes.
example.
Kenya, you understand?
A president was sitting on a wheelchair.
Exactly. A lot
Because of that, he had to pass the disability bill into law.
Exactly. Yeah. So you don't have to wait until you have disability and start advocating. People question you, what were you doing? When you have the chance, the economic power, the political will to put certain things in place. That's the problem with the Gambia. And if you talk about it, you know how many people call me, but you don't know what about hell. Lungade was on TV and all of that. Do I care much? I know whatever I talk about, it's facts. It's based on facts. I can defend myself at any point. So I do not need to massage the truth when it comes to demand for our needs. We should not be quiet, because we don't expect Gandhi to be forcing us, boy, they know what them definitely, you have to go do that and do this. We have the intellectual ability. Let's advocate for ourselves and see what happened. At least Gambians will not say, okay, we have never heard about this before. No, we have a lot of institutions with persons with disabilities, different categories, like you said, that you can connect to. You can ask them questions. People will say this, but we have no way to help. We don't know. That's not true. You don't want to. We have the whole federation. That is very responsible federation. communicate to them. They will connect you to any disability sector that you want to support with your aids. They will give it to you. So that's the major challenge. Sometimes I feel so arrogant at some point when I'm discussing disability issues.
No,
so I would just have to.
So my
yes.
thing is this.
Yeah.
The reason why I point out you need to call out certain institutions that not catering to disabled individuals. It's simple, right? I mean, we can discuss it all we want, and I'm sure we've discussed it for a long time. Disability is not new. It's been here for a long time. If any change were to be in practice, it would have been done, but it's simply because there's no pressure. That's what I believe.
Right.
If there's no pressure to change something, nobody will really bother to change it because there are no consequences to it. But if you start calling out certain institutions for clearly saying, we don't cater to disabled people, then they will start pressure will start building. Like, why do you say you don't have the capacity when someone is abled?
Right.
I would understand if you're visually disabled and the work you're applying for it's a visually related job. That's obvious. You can't do that work, right? You cannot be a graphic designer if you cannot see. It's very hard to do unless there's machines that can actually help you design graphics. But if you can do administrative work, you can do tax like you said, you can do so many other things, and you're not employed not because of your competency, but simply because you have something that you are not in control of. Then that is something you have to call out.
Right. So
right. And I understand the need for. I understand what you're saying, but all I'm saying is, if we don't start, I mean, we don't want to get to a war for something like this to change.
Right.
But we can start with calling people out.
Yeah. No, that's true. But the point is, who's going to hold them accountable? Is the government?
Public opinion really matters.
Yeah, but we're talking about public that has less understanding and has less interest. In disability matters. You will understand with me. You will understand with me.
This is the difference. Here's the difference, right? The people that actually matter in terms of speaking up, they are around.
Right.
If just recently, when we saw a Chinese supermarket in Nigeria that were discriminating against Nigerians, say there's only Chinese people are allowed. What happened?
Right.
There was a public uproar, and the place was closed down. Right. And when Al-Bihaj, I believe not too long ago, there was some incident that happened. There was a public uproar. There's pressure that was put on them. It got to a point where the government had to intervene. So this is the point that I'm trying to make. Yeah, you're not looking for everybody's voices, but the people that actually matter, the people on social media, these people, they will talk about it. I'm sure you've seen Twitter, Bubacarr.
Yeah.
When certain issues come up, people actually, their opinions, what they say makes a difference. Right. And this is what I'm saying.
You're right.
You need to know there is a demographic that actually cares about these issues. And if you point it out, they are going to speak up. And if an immediate change is not seen, at least
there'll be progress.
There will be progress, and they will put some. At least they will think about their policies moving forward. Right. So that's why we need to start holding people accountable, not simply because we don't. They're saying the internal policies, they are not catering to disabled people, but they need to cater to disabled people.
Right.
And
we don't have to wait for them.
I think currently, because as we said, we have the Disability Act since 2021. And the Act is trying to address this kind of things. There are consequences, because you look at Section 7071 of the Act. It brings in this kind of clauses where it states if institutions or even an individual denies you of your right of employment and you know you're qualified and suitable for that employment, you can resort to court to address the situation, because when it comes to legal issues, the court addresses a lot of times. So there are penalties that are put into place when you're denied the right to education, the right to employment, or you're even discriminated upon. The law addresses those kind of things. It has clauses which says when you're denied the right to education by an individual, when you go to court, there is a penalty of 50,000 being placed on that person. That is an option of fine or even imprisonment. When it is an institution, a whole institution, a fine of 100,000, or to the discretion of the court, you can also the court can also sentence the person. So the law is trying to address all these kind of things. So when it comes into implementation, these institutions can be held accountable because they cannot also only rely on their internal policies. The law supersedes
Exactly.
the internal
that's
policy.
the point.
Yes, that's right.
Exactly. So, but I'm not saying if someone with disabilities go for an employment and then you're not taken, you automatically resort to this has to be discrimination. If you're not competent, like you were saying, you're not looking for just representation. You're looking for qualified representation.
Exactly.
And there should it's a very fine line that people should navigate. But discrimination against disabled persons, regardless of internal policies, it's not an excuse. They need to be
the
pointed
law
out.
addresses a lot of things because it is also giving companies or institutions opportunities. For instance, issues of tax reduction. You know, employment is addressed between 37, 38, 39, 40, something like that. You look at it, tax reduction opportunities. If you employ a certain number of persons with disabilities, you will enjoy tax reduction from the government. So, you know, those are kind of things you give privilege to institutions to encourage them to address persons with disabilities. For instance, if you employ 15% of persons with disabilities in your institution, you're eligible to enjoy certain amount of tax reduction, maybe 15% or 10%. You know, that is going to encourage institutions or companies coming or starting up to employ persons with disabilities. So I believe currently Gambia is trying to set up the policy or the legal framework. So implementation is what is lacking because the law just came into in 2021. So implementation is just starting because when a law comes into place, awareness raising also has to take place so that people can know of the existence of that law. And if they don't abide by the law, what will happen? So the law was being popularized and is still being popularized because you've seen different institutions like the GFD, NCCE, which is responsible for creating that awareness, going into communities, doing all those sort of things to create that awareness. So if people are aware, not everybody will be aware at the same time, but as it's progressive, as it is happening, then implementation will start. Implementation will come into place. And certainly implementation has started, though at a very slow rate, but it has started from government side. Because that is what brought up the setup of the advisory council. And as of last year, at least through advocacy and through the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare, a certain amount was proposed to the National Assembly to be allocated as a budgetary line for persons with albinism, persons with disabilities. Not wholly the entire sum is approved, but at least a significant amount is approved for this year towards the implementation of the Act and the rights of persons with disabilities. So as we say, it's progressive. And I think when we are the ones who need to set this light or create this awareness for people to know.
Exactly, and that's my thing because I wouldn't know that something like this is happening because no one is really saying anything about it. And exactly. The part on the lawmakers part, they've taken a step. Now the next step to be taken is in implementation, and that's something that has to be ongoing. So for someone like you that experienced something like that, you have to raise awareness. Because then other institutions be like, oh, then there's an act. We need to, like benefits, for example, like tax reduction. That's very beneficial to a big corporation. And you don't lose anything because if you hire someone that's competent, you're not lacking anything. At the end of the day, like you said, if anything, you're getting someone that is more meticulous because they have less distractions. So these are things that needs to be pointed out. In my opinion, we don't need to have this sort of culture. We don't need to say they have their own internal policies. It doesn't help.
Because the law supersedes that internal policy.
Exactly. Yes. But at the end of the day, this is a platform to raise awareness, and I'm happy to host individuals like yourself. Because most of us have family members with disabilities, and it's not new. And I understand what it feels like. I understand what it feels like to hold her hand and be telling her, be careful of this, be careful of that, or there's a step here, there's a step there. So I can understand what it feels, not what it feels like, but what it means to have disabilities. I definitely cannot understand it because I don't have it. But what I can do is to create platforms or help in any shape and form that I can help. And in the way I can help is not monetarily, but through my means, which is the platform. This is a little bit off script that I'm going. This is for Bubacarr. The last time I saw a tweet, and you were someone, I think it was a photographer or something like that, and you reposted basically supporting their photography. Okay. And in my head, I'm like, I'm like, Bubacarr is blind. How does he know this person can takes good photos? Please explain that to us.
Thank you so much. Oh, that was my very, very good friend, Nativ. Nativ is a very, very good friend. I attended a tech camp somewhere, and we met, and since then we've been friends. And he took us some theories in photography, and out of his explanation, and then how he's dedicated with the job. And I've been a great follower of him, so I understand he is somebody who knows his job very well. And then I understand as well he has a lot of contracts as well with a lot of credible institutions, in the Gambia. So yeah, so I felt he could really do well. Yeah.
Okay, because in my head I'm like, Bubacarr has some superpowers that he's not telling us.
I see.
But it was just a funny, it was an interesting tweet that I saw.
Very well.
But to close this, I would just need maybe a short answer from you guys. Like, what are some of the recommendations you would like to give for society to better understand your conditions, to kind of just be able to navigate side by side with you, not to look down, not to pity, but to see you guys as equals? Like, what are some of the recommendations you can give? I can start, Bubacarr.
Thank you. So one of it could be very close to persons with disabilities. There is no shame, getting close to a person with disability. There is no shame asking questions to persons with disability. I used to laugh about this a lot when someone will just walk up to me and was like, okay, I really wanted to talk to you, but then I've been really longing to talk to you, but then I could not, because I used to feel perhaps maybe you were busy or you could react anyhow. Persons with disabilities are just any ordinary human being that you have out there. I mean, it's just one, part of the organ that is not functioning as it should, but that do not limit the person in any way. And, for you to better understand the person, be very close to the person, and then, feel free to ask questions, and the more you're close to the person, the more you ask relevant questions to the person, the better you understand the person as well. So just to tell people to be very, very comfortable, getting closer to persons with disability, hanging out with persons with disability, because that sometimes is you have to get the person out of his or her comfort zone to be able to know the person very well. So, you just don't limit persons with disability at homes, you just don't limit them at, close by streets, but feel free to hang out with them, feel free to be with them everywhere. I can remember there was a day that I make this tweet, talking about how people would, see me, around the beach, and then, the friend that I'll be working with will be like, people are always looking at us, and then I'll be like, yeah, it's quite normal. And I make a tweet about it, that, it's very normal to have persons with disability around the beaches. It's very normal to have, persons with disabilities around restaurants. I mean, these are any other ordinary, human being that likes to enjoy as any other person. So, it should not be anything, strange to see persons with disability at the beaches. It should not be strange seeing persons with disabilities at the restaurant. So just get closer to persons with disabilities, and then you'll be able to have a much understanding of how disability works, and then how they feel as well. Yeah. But then as well, a lot of platforms should be created. More persons with disabilities should be out there as well talking. We should not as well limit ourselves. the more we have platforms, the more we get out of our comfort zone to talk to the people as well. The better people understand us, and then they will be able to pick it up from there. So these are some of the recommendations that I will give. Be very, very much closer to persons with disabilities, but then as well, persons with disabilities as well, we should also be ready to be out there to educate the society, to tell the society how we feel, and then etc. So, but then as well, government as well should take the lead role. They've been doing it. Because today a lot of persons with disabilities are employed as teachers, but we are saying it should not only stop at teachers. What of other sectors? As Cherno said, the legislative body, the National Assembly, as of today, there is no persons with disability there. Not as a representative of persons with disability, not in fact as an elected, representative. So, we should have persons with disability in some of these places, in the legislature, in this legislation house, in the executive. For far too long, we've not have a persons with disability in our executive. I've not been aware having a person with disability as a minister in this country. And, I think it's high time, that now, then perhaps they can give some excuses to say that, perhaps qualification whatsoever. But, now we have persons with disabilities with degrees. We have a person with disability who is a magistrate, a principal magistrate of that of that matter. In fact, presiding very, very much high cases in this country. So who says a person with disability cannot be a minister? Who says a person with disability cannot be a director? So it's good that the government start looking around those lines, employing persons with disability in some of these places. And the more they come in contact with people, the more people understands them, and then as well be very comfortable, confident as well, have them in their, work institution. So the government should take role. Hence, they are the ones educating us. They are the ones creating schools for us. They are the ones who have the directorate for special needs in the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education. Let them not stop at educating us. Let them take the lead role in employing us. And, when they employ us and then, people come in contact with us, they become more confident as well in taking us. So that would be a recommendation for all these sides. Thank you.
Thank you, I don't know.
Just take up from where Bubacarr stopped, because basically he has mentioned a lot. Don't have much to say, but then what I would say is let us not look down on persons with disabilities, because disability is not inability, and disability, it's something that can come to someone at any point in time. I can be a person with disability today, or you can be somebody without a disability today, but who knows, tomorrow you can be. With these serious road accidents, certain sicknesses like diabetes or whatsoever, one can be amputated, and so. Issues of sickle cell, asthma, all that are issues of disability. So let's be mindful, and as well, I will urge my fellow persons with disabilities not to be looking down on ourselves, because that is very important. You have to be confident in yourself, love yourself, believe in yourself. If you don't expect somebody else out there to do that for you. It has to start from you, from the inner you. Respect yourself, value yourself. Then somebody else, when that person comes, obviously the person would value you. But if you don't value yourself, you don't expect somebody else out there to come do that for you. It starts within you. Don't look down on yourself. Don't pity yourself. You are an equal to the other person you are. We're talking about equal opportunities, inclusion. So before you expect somebody else to include you, first include yourself. In the world we are in today, yes, ignorance or whatsoever, but to end that ignorance, you have to create that awareness. If somebody is violating your right, or somebody is doing something he or she should not do to you, approach the person, talk to the person, enlighten the person. At times it's not because the person is deliberate. At times some just don't know. And if you enlighten them, they appreciate it and they change the way they've been acting or the manner in which they do things. So it's important also as a person with disability to always come out and speak up, create awareness, because you don't expect everybody to know everything. No man is an island. So somebody is doing something he or she does not know. So enlighten the person. It's very important. Awareness raising is the baseline. If people are sensitized, their concepts are changed, their perceptions of on how they see things are changed. A lot of things will change, because Gambia, our problem is the attitude. So if you create that awareness, attitudes change, a lot of things we are talking about today, a lot of challenges we are going through will change. So let us try to create awareness. Let us change the perceptions of people. That is very important. The way people see us and think we can't do much is the perception they have.
Yeah.
But let us showcase what we also have. Let us not just sit at the corner. We don't have this. They're not doing this for us. Let us come out and show what we have. Because if you don't show what you have, people won't know.
True.
You have to show what you have for people to understand and know that you can do this. So do that for that person to know. You know the issue of the graphic design, when you say that, I laugh. With evolving concept of technology and so, things can change. Because there are certain things that visually impaired are doing today. They were not expected to be able to do it back then in the early 90s or whatsoever. So things can change.
Of course.
So let us embrace diversity.
Yeah.
It's very important. We are all born different, but at the end of the day, we are all the same because we came from one creator, and he created us the same way. He used the same thing to create, and when we die, we're all going to the same place. So let us not be looking low on people.
Yeah.
Let us appreciate nature, appreciate people, appreciate what they have, and also as individuals with disabilities, let us appreciate who we are. Anyway, for me, I'm a proud person with albinism, and I don't hide it. I know I have visual impairment, and my husband is also a visually impaired. Mashallah, I really appreciate him, and I want others also to do the same. Embrace one another. At times, also, the problem is, as persons with disabilities, sorry to say, but at times also we look low on one another. If I'm a visual impairment, somebody on the wheelchair, I kind of look down on that person. I will not even want to get close to that person. At times, you see, some of us, somebody with a disability will approach us for marriage, and we say no to it. Because we are looking low on that person, because the person is on a wheelchair or whatever, the person has a disability. But I think, as Bubacarr said, we have to embrace one another as well. It starts from us.
True.
All this kind of thing starts within us. If it is not within us, we don't expect the wider world to appreciate us. So let's appreciate one another, be helping one another, be assisting one another. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your input, Adama. Yes, sir.
Yes, I wonder whether I have anything to say. It's like they've said it all. So, my concern would be more of the implementation stage of the Disability Act. So I just want to call on CSOs, that is civic society organizations, to also help the government and GFD to take a leading role in implementation of Persons with Disability Act. We don't have to wait for the money to do this. We can use our platforms to really push this agenda. Yeah. Yes. Because it is very, very easy for most of CSOs to when drafting their concept notes documents for any other project. Mostly they will have a content on disability that persons with disabilities will be included in such a project, so they can, because so many people believe that now it is easy to gain funding through UN if you bring that idea of disability onto any project proposal. You want their hearts. You understand? So we don't want it to stop at that. Just bringing us as subjects of workshop beneficiaries. You can involve us at the pre-planning stage of your program, so you understand us better. Because many times what happens is, if they invite you for their programs and activities, you question their level of inclusiveness. Because maybe your needs as a person with disability will not be put in place for you, so you cannot participate that much in that activity. You understand? And also, I think young people should also consider disability in all, national dialogue, because I will give a classical example of Youth Connect, the past Youth Connect. Even though we have speakers amongst the disability community, but I don't think that's enough. I think there should be a whole, panel discussion on disability awareness on the Youth Connect, because we have a lot of young people that are living with disability. You understand? Such platforms like that, they should talk about disability much, so we can create about understanding. Because there you bring in young people from various backgrounds and from all regions in the Gambia, put them together. Perhaps you live in the greater Banjul area, your connection with them, it's easier than somebody who lives in the rural Gambia, who don't even know how to support a visually impaired people to cross a road. You understand? So having segment on that, on disability, that'll be fine. But like they said, also, we as persons with disabilities have a role to play. Believe in yourself and your ideas unquestionably. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So these two questions just came in.
Right.
I don't know why I did not think about it. But how do you read and write?
Okay. So for visual impaired, we have Braille machine. Braille is a reading, is a feeling and touch by visual impaired use. It's a machine that come with dots. You know that because you cannot see as visual impaired, but you can able to touch and feel. You understand? So each of those dots on the Braille machine represent either a word or a number. You understand? So we have a number shine, and we have letters. You understand? So that's what many people use to read. But with the advancement of technology, like I said, now we have audiobooks. You know, you can listen to audiobooks, and you have voice readers like NVDA, non-visual desktop access. These are softwares that can be installed in any other computer. There's no specific computer designed for blind people. It's the same computers. You just need to install that software called NVDA or ZoomText. ZoomText is also another magnification software that you can install in a computer, make the write-up. That is if you have low vision, you can able to read. So these are some of the technological devices that we rely on and to be able to read and learn independently. Babacar will tell you, could you imagine if we don't get computer skills, it's going to be difficult for us to escape or to succeed in terms of tertiary education, because it's very challenging there, So yes, so what we I'm encouraging is government to invest more on technology, especially assistive technology, so persons with disabilities can be technologically advanced. I know you're amazed with Babacar's performance on Twitter, but you can understand in some parts of the world, it is very normal for blind people to use computer. Because it's just in the Gambia that people take it big. Hey, this person cannot see and he's in computer. Because we don't make research about this. We neglect the disability sector. You wonder, even the policymakers know less about disability. That's why I was asking you the question of, accountability, because who's gonna hold who accountable? Yeah. If you that we trusted as the duty bearer, the primary duty bearer, know less about our concerns. You understand? So but with the use of technology, everything is possible. I know blind people that build apps. Yes, they build apps and they develop websites. I am married and my wife lives in the United States and she's totally blind. And she is a software tester. She works for an organization called Quality Tech Services. So they make they make websites accessible for blind people around the world. So if you build a website and you want to make it accessible for visually impaired people, you can connect to this organization, and they will make it possible. They will change some figures for you to make it very accessible. And there is a lot of people with visual impairment in other parts of Africa, in fact. In Africa, maybe in Ghana, Kenya, they will tell you. In fact, there is currently a conference that will take place in Kenya called Inclusive Africa Conference. I think it's based on digital technology and digital accessibility for persons with disabilities. So a lot is going on. So it's not be a surprise for people to see, or you question yourself. Bring computers for people with disabilities, they will use it. Bring, telephones, will use it. Every telephone is set with an accessibility feature.
Bubacarr is an example.
Exactly, Bubacarr is an example. And in fact, I will inform you that we have a whole center for technology in the Gambia for visually impaired. And this founder is a visually impaired. He trained us, me and Bubacarr, and a lot of young people, and he cannot see. Could you imagine? He's visually impaired. The center is in Brikama. It's called Start Now. If you want to know more about the center, you can
so
go
maybe
visit.
What you could do later is just send us like some of these organizations, probably websites.
Exactly.
We'll put it on the show.
Yeah.
And also the act. I forgot to mention. Where can we find it?
I can share it.
Please. Yeah, if you have it.
And as well, government currently is doing printouts, sharing.
Okay.
So it's slow, but they're also sharing it to institutions.
Okay.
But then I can always share.
Yeah, if we have the digital copy, then we can add it on the episode.
I can always share.
That's good. How do you read and write? I know you said you find it difficult to see text.
Yeah, text on books or on telephones. I strain my eyes, I can say.
Okay.
I bring it closer to my eyes and read. Because I'm not also that familiar with the voice readers. Because at a young age, I did not embrace it. So for me, I was not trained on Braille as well. So I strain my eyes to read and to write. But then as he said, with the advancement of technology, a lot of things have changed. We're adapting, for instance, when using the computer for now, I am adapting to the voice readers that he mentioned. For me, I'm using another one called JAWS.
Just, yeah.
Yeah, so with the advancement of technology, as visually impaired, we can do a lot of things. We can read, we can write, we can develop a lot of
bridging
other
all the
things.
gaps.
Yeah, and there are also apps that even people use nowadays to find objects or devices. For instance, there is this app they call Be My Eyes.
Yeah. Be my eyes, yeah.
I got to know about it from my husband. He will
Right.
just he installs it on the phone. So if he misplaces a key or whatsoever, he will use that as if that will be scanning around to find whatever object he's looking for, and the app will locate the object for him. So that tells you the advancement of technology. A lot of things.
I mean,
can change.
I do agree with you, because I don't know if you've heard of Neuralink by Elon, one of Elon's companies. They've developed a device that they install in your brain. They connect it to your brain. It restores, for most people, it restores their visions completely.
Okay.
But it also helps you connect to the network interfaces. So it's almost like you're controlling your devices with your mind.
Wow.
So it just completely gets rid of. It's pending FDA approval,
Okay.
but they've tried it. It's been successful.
Yeah, and when it's approved anyway, I know it's going to be really helpful for
Yeah.
people with visual
Impairment,
impairment.
yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be nice, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have seen this. This is just a close. Bubacarr, let me before Bala Malafate. How do you read and write? If you write, I know you do a lot of writing digitally.
Yeah, so it's the same. We're able to use braille machines. This is what we use in our tender age as visual impaired. It creates dots, and then with those dots you fill them, and then you'll be able to read. So in our tender age, we have braille books, we have braille lessons and everything. We also have computers as well. So as Cherno said, there is no specific computer that is designed for visual impaired. I can remember of recent I just had a meeting with a particular, very, very, very big public figure, and when I mentioned computers, the person was like, "Are there specific computers for persons with disability or visual impaired?" I was like, "No." It's just any other ordinary computer. You just need to install screen readers in it. Among them is the NVDA Cherno mentioned, JAWS that Adama mentioned, and then as well you have other softwares, the Dolphin Guide. Some of those you buy them, the Dolphin Guide, the JAWS you buy them, but NVDA is a free software that anyone could download from the internet, and then when you install it in your computer, it is a screen reader. It reads everything that is on the screen. Yeah, so that is how we read, that is how we write. We write using the computers, we write using the braille machine. We also read using braille, using computers as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Final thing, there's a video that I saw recently about people with superpowers, like blind people with superpowers, and one of the guy he basically navigates his environment using sound. Like he clicks his tongue. I don't know if you saw that.
Not yet.
He clicks.
We can share with
He
us.
clicks his tongue, and he listens to the sound. And different materials absorb sound differently, and they reflect it differently.
Yeah.
It's almost like ultrasonic sound that he uses, and he's able to map his environment just using sound. He plays basketball,
Wow.
and he's completely blind. So I don't know. Maybe you can look into that.
Yeah, we'll check.
So sound is a very, very powerful.
extremely powerful.
Is a very powerful tool when it comes to visual impairment. I can literally tell. Like basically, I work alone in most cases, and with sound, I'll be able to know whether I'm closer to an object or not. Most especially if the object is above, is beside the ear level or whatsoever, or face level. In most cases you'll be able to tell, whether you are closer to an object or something like that. So sound is very, very important. That's why at times, when visual impaired are walking, having these too much noises along areas, it affects, especially me when I am walking around these areas with too much noises. At times I become very, very much confused because I use sound to be able to navigate around. So the moment that it is noisy, you are affected. You will not be able to hear what is on the other side. So sound is a very, very powerful tool when it comes to visual impaired. We use it a lot. It helps us to be able to do a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
Right.
In like superhero movies, sometimes when you have, I don't know if you've heard of Daredevil. Daredevil is a Marvel character. He's completely blind and he fights crime, but he uses his hearing to basically navigate around him. And there's a scene where he's like in a very noisy environment, but he's able to focus on specific sounds and voices. But this is like sci-fi, science fiction. Is that something that is real, or is that just Hollywood?
It's true, it's true. It's with sound that you'll be able to do all those things, and even if it is noisy, you can focus. Just that if there is some mixture of sounds, at times it will be difficult. But you can easily focus on the sound that you wish to focus on, and then you'll be able to get around.
Yeah.
That's
Hearing
amazing.
is just God gifted anyway. God does not take all from you.
Exactly.
If he takes this from you, he compensates you with another.
Yeah.
Then
Exactly.
Visually impaired are compensated with the hearing.
Yeah, it becomes
Exactly.
super sensitive. I mean, the sense of sight and the sense of hearing, these are the two greatest gifts for man.
In Mandinka they say hakilo leke joroke. It's the mind that sees. It's
Yeah,
not the eyes.
it's not the eye.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
That's
These
right.
two, that's just the window to. And if you notice in the Quran, God puts a lot of emphasis on sight and hearing, and I think there's a lot of wisdom behind it. And there's a belief that if one sense is taken away from you, it is compensated on the other one. So the other one becomes super. It's almost like you're getting two in one, since you've lost one. This has been a very enlightening and amazing conversation. I want to thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate all the. I apologize if my jokes was a little bit
not
too much, but
that was okay.
I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. Let me just put it like that. So thank you guys for joining us. I truly appreciate it. Please send us the act and other links that you think we should put out there as well,
For sure.
Right.
and we'll definitely share it. Yeah. All right, guys.
All right.
This
Thank
is
you
a
very
wrap.
much.
No problem.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. All right.